All right. Yes. And welcome everybody to our class today. Just as we get started, maybe, yeah, as Mike said, put in the chat where you are in the world, where you're joining from. And as you can see, this is the SDLP live lesson of the month. If you don't know what that is, you will in a minute. So stay tuned and we'll talk more about that. As we get started, or before we start, please share and tag your experience with us. And we are actually giving away a free chance to win a free month in our SDLP portal. So all you have to do is share a post on Instagram, tag our account, that's at Learn Your English, and you can enter the contest to win a free month in our portal for English learning opportunities. So you can go ahead and do that on your time. At Learn Your English is the handle. Now, as we get started, I want to make sure that everyone is in the right place. So if this represents you, just put a yes into the chat. Okay. So if you're tired of spending hours and hours studying English without the results you want, put a yes in the chat. Also, if you've always wanted to learn on your own, but you aren't sure how to get started, put a yes in the chat. And this means you're in the right place. And we're very happy that you're here. You're also in the right place if you're looking for a completely different way of learning, one that gives you the tools, control, and the results you want to see. And again, if that sounds like you, even one of those, put a yes in the chat. And as we get started here, if you're new to our Learn Your English community, to our LYE family, just give us 1 second to introduce ourselves. This is a picture of the three amigos who are part of Learn Your English. Two of us are here today. Myself, my name is Andrew. Mike is here as well. And Leo, in the right side of your picture, is not here today, but he is the other part of our LYE family. A lot of you have said where you are currently in the world. Where we are is we are in Canada. So we are an organization based in Canada, although we are exclusively an online company, and we're in different parts of Canada. Leo and I live in Toronto, where we met Mike, also in Toronto. But now Mike, who's from the East Coast, lives on the West Coast. He doesn't stay in one spot for very long, that's for sure. Combined, the three of us have over 50 years of teaching experience. I will leave it up to you to guess how those years go with each of us, but 50 combined, maybe even higher than that, between the three of us. We've taught at schools, we've taught at universities, both here in Canada and abroad outside of Canada. But actually, until recently, we weren't very happy with how we were seeing languages taught. So we decided to do something about it. But why weren't we happy with how languages were taught? That's kind of a weird thing to hear teachers say, don't you think? So we identified three problems that we wanted to help fix. And again, put a yes in the chat if you think even one of these problems applies to you and your learning. So you have knowledge about the language you want, but you have trouble using it. Maybe you want to develop better learning habits, but it can seem overwhelming. And maybe you think online learning is great, which we do too, but many of the current tools available to you don't provide enough direction and enough interaction, like we're doing here today, talking with each other, getting together, even thousands of miles apart, communicating, talking, interacting. A lot of online tools don't allow for that, or they can be confusing. So those were three problems that we saw with how languages are treated and learned, and we wanted to do something about it. And we came up with three solutions that we think that we want to talk to you about today and that we implement in our teaching. And again, a yes in the chat if you are interested or you think this solution is good for your situation. uh, you think that you need to be in charge of what and how you learn, that you need to learn transferable skills that you can use anywhere and especially in your real life, and that you think online tools need to make sense, be easy to use, and be accessible to anyone. Because, of course, there are many online tools and they're not all useful for every person, of course. So, how do we implement that? Well, our philosophy of learning online is around a four-tier approach. One, personal goals and strong habits. Instead of teaching you or teaching people how or what to learn, we encourage students to create their own goals, to create their own habits, to tell us what they need to learn, what they want to learn, and how they want to learn it. And we help them do that. Live lessons with teachers. Online tools are great, but eventually we have questions, we need some support, we need some help. So we also provide live lessons with instructors. Of course, improving your language, the skills of the language, your language skills. That sounds so simple, but reading, listening, writing, speaking, and many other things for more specific purposes are really important. And what are your goals to do that? And then we wanted to develop a community as well, not just in Canada, not just in one country, but a global community of people who also share that philosophy of wanting to reach their goals, to have strong habits, to improve, and to interact together. Which brings us to what we've come up with. And this is our self-directed learning portal, or SDLP is what we call it. You can use it on your phone, you can use it on a tablet, computer, desktop, laptop, anywhere with an internet connection. And what is it and how do we use it? This is what we say. It helps, or we help, English language learners become more autonomous and improve faster by teaching them how to master transferable skills and use the English that matters most to them, in this case, most to you. So I'm sure you found that a lot of courses, a lot of curriculum have a certain thing that you need to learn, and that might be good for your life at that moment, but it also might not. So if it's not, we wanted to create something that helps you in those situations. What is it? You might notice that picture of a compass, and this is the image that we like to use to symbolize the portal, where you decide the direction, you decide where you want to go, you decide how, where, when, everything about your learning. And in this portal, in the SDLP, we mix strategies with live lessons, with habit cultivation to allow you to direct your own learning, just like you would your direction in a compass. What we have here is a little mood board just to get you looking at what it looks like on a monthly basis. So podcasts, tasks, classes, you can see at the bottom, discussion boards, habit tracking, and a whole database of lessons from this month and going back over 1 year. So you have access to lots of different things over there. So once again, let's just confirm to make sure you're in the right place, because we want the right people to be here with us today. So again, one more time, last time, put a yes in the chat. If learning English is important to you, if you want to create your own learning path, if you're tired of learning grammar and not improving, if you want to learn how to improve faster and in your own way, you want live classes with teachers, you want to join a passionate community of learners, not just from your own city, county, province, or country, but from all over the world, and you want to do it all for $5 a month. If that's you, we're glad you're here and you're absolutely in the right place. I'm going to bring Mike in here right now with our agenda. And if that is you, we're excited to have you here. And we'd love to show you how the SDLP works. And Mike's going to show us actually one lesson as an example of what we have. Mike.
So welcome everyone. It's great to be with you. Like Andrew said, we hope that you're all here in the right place. And today we thought we'd kick off this little overview of the SDLP with a live lesson with all of you. So thank you so much for joining. So as some of you already know, the SDLP is really about how we can use these transferable skills to practice the English that's all around us, right? And to, again, focus on the expressions, the skills, the vocabulary, the techniques that matter most to our lives. And we do this by exploring the jungle, so to speak, right? We look at all the different listening texts that are out there, you know, what's on Netflix, what's on YouTube. We look at all the different articles and posts on social media and websites. And we really try to use that as this kind of endless supply of English exposure, right? And we're really lucky because we live in this day and age of easy access to this. It doesn't mean we're going to learn all of it. So in today's lesson, we're going to look at how we can kind of tame this wild beast. We're going to look at some transferable skills we can use and some transferable skills we develop in the SDLP to help us find and make the most of what we come across in the jungle. So we're going to focus on noticing language, which is a key skill which experts in additional language acquisition always talk about. And finally, we're going to try and practice some of this language that we notice together. All right, so hopefully you're ready. I'm going to ask you to do one thing now. I'd like for you to take out your cell phone or to open up a web browser, and we'll do this survey together. So I'd like for you to go to slido.com, or you can scan the QR code by using the QR code scanner in your phone. And I want you to just text like you would a text message. I'd like for you to text in your answers to these questions, and we'll populate them. Okay, so really what we're looking for here already is someone like wants to learn it for their job, right? So that's great because Leo and I talk about this on the podcast, right? The Cult of Learning podcast, that we have to have a specific reason for why we want to learn English, because we're going to focus on the materials and activities and texts that connect with that purpose. Are there any other ones out there? Yeah, just general communication. And I think Andrew's right. We want these live lessons because we need that social element, right? We want to get that instant feedback about our ideas, right? Some of us want to be a better teacher. That's a great idea. In fact, I use the SDLP with my own private students, and they seem to really like it because we can go through the activities together. Again, because sometimes these skills aren't intuitive. They're not obvious right away. So having a teacher and doing it with a student-teacher relationship is really quite helpful. Oh, we have lots coming through. Again, we have some tests. So we are developing some great materials for tests, and we also have test quick fixes in our Thinkific course offerings. And we will be talking about some test skills in upcoming live lessons for our SDLP members. And then again, I see from different countries. Thank you all for your participation there. Here we have another one. So thinking of those larger goals, what are some specific skills that you think you'd like to highlight? By highlight, I mean, what skills would you like to focus on the most? So one of one. So far, one person came in. That's quite funny. Good, here we go. We can see it coming. Speaking. So that's why we want to have this SDLP live lesson for our members. And actually, we're going to be adding more lessons each month. Also, we have listening coming in and writing. Now, the great thing about the SDLP is that all of the lessons that are on the mobile app actually practice these things. They practice active listening. They practice reading and writing. And above all, the challenge is then for us to use it in our own speaking. And I have one more question for you, and then we're going to get into the jungle. So let's look at that last question. So we have our purpose, we have our skills. So what habits? What do you want to do more of? Or what do you think is important in terms of good habits for good learning of additional languages? So I love the one at the top, right? Make time to learn. Many people don't know this, but I'm currently doing my own PhD right now. So I'm a student, much like many of you. And I think finding time is actually the hardest thing to do. But at Learn Your English, we always say we're part of the 1% club. So as long as I'm trying to get 1% better and I'm finding enough time to do that 1%, then over the long run, I'm going to get much better. But you're right, you have to find time. You have to consistently show up. You have to dedicate yourself. You have to organize your schedule. I love all of these, which brings us to the topic of our lesson today. So I was out reading some articles online. Actually, I was on my back deck on my tablet, and I came across this excellent article, and it was talking about me time. Um, can anyone tell me, just have you heard this expression before? What does it mean, me time? Someone said in the chat, it's time for yourself. Yeah, and we talked about that in one of the previous survey questions, right? So me time is really time for oneself. So I read the article and I thought, there are a lot of good expressions here. And I'd like to explore those expressions with all of you who have joined today. But first, we're going to do a little task. So I need you to take out a piece of paper, or you can open up a Word document on your computer. And I'm going to show you a short paragraph from this reading. All right. So as you can see, some of this information is missing. Now I'm doing this because, again, we talked about the jungle, and we just can't watch a Netflix video and assume it's going to, all that English is going to go into our brain, right? We actually have to force ourselves to come up with a habit, right? A habit of how I can use that Netflix video, or how I can use, in this case, a news article or a magazine article to improve my English. So one skill we can do is we can actually force ourselves to notice some information. So I'm going to actually read out, I'll read it twice. I'm going to read out the whole article, and I want you on your piece of paper to write down what I say, okay? All right, here we go. One of the biggest things that I want to do differently this year is to deliberately carve out me time for myself. And yep, a year after posting this, and it is still true. I'm no martyr. I don't take care of everyone but myself. I don't run myself ragged trying to do it all for everyone and nothing for me. But I haven't always been very intentional or deliberate about how I take care of me. Okay, so I'm going to read it one more time. One of the biggest things that I want to do differently this year is to deliberately carve out me time for myself. And yep, a year after posting this, and it is still true, I'm no martyr. I don't take care of everyone but myself. I don't run myself ragged trying to do it all for everyone and nothing for me. But I haven't always been very intentional or deliberate about how I take care of me. Okay, so let's look at each one of these gaps together. All right, so let's take a look at these gaps. So you can let me know in the chat, what's the first sentence here? What do you think is the answer? Just let me know in the chat. One of the biggest, good, Julian, things that I want to do. Yeah, we have a phrase here, right? Do differently this year. Excellent. Is to we're off to a good start. Don't give up now. Deliberately, yeah. Carve out me time for myself. Excellent. Oh, someone was close. Yeah, for myself. Excellent. And yep. What's after yep? A year after posting this, oh, this is really good. And it is still true. Excellent. I'm no martyr. I don't care. Care was in there, I think. Yeah. Good, Julian. Let's even get the whole phrase. I don't take care of everyone. I think that's close. Yeah, I think that, but myself. I don't run myself. This word might be a little tricky. I don't run myself ragged. Oh, bonus points for Julia there. I don't run myself ragged. Trying to do it all. Yeah, do it all for everyone. And nothing for me. But I haven't always been very intentional. Well done, Anna. Yeah. Or deliberate. Excellent. Well done. About how I take care of me. That's excellent. Just going to close the chat. So thank you very much for your participation there. So as you can see, the whole text together, it's a very short paragraph. So what that tells us is when we're in the jungle, it's up to us to choose a small section of that, right? And to really focus on it. So that's kind of that first skill, right? I'm going to just choose something that interests me, that small section, and I'm going to focus on the words, the vocabulary, and patterns. And what I might notice, right? What I might notice are some really cool patterns, right? So I might deliberately carve out something for myself, right? I might take care of everyone, right? So we have some phrasal verbs. I like this one. I might run myself ragged. That's another good one. Uh, do it all. I do it all for someone. Um, and I really like this kind of combination here of intentional or deliberate, and then we have about, and then a noun phrase, in this case, a noun clause. So what are we doing here? Well, we're taking a real piece of English, right? Something from a Netflix, in this case, something from an article, and we're reducing it to a focus section. And now we're playing with the language. We're first noticing it, and then we're going to play with it. And the expression that I've highlighted for today's lesson is carve out. This is our second. So once we find these new vocabulary items or these maybe grammar points, or if you're a teacher and you're trying to help your students with academic English, you might read a journal article, and I highlight what those different parts of an introduction are, what those different parts of a method section are, and really focus on them. But from a student's perspective, me as a learner, what I want to do is start with the whole thing because I'm interested in the whole thing, but isolate, highlight one section, and then within that section, force myself. Someone said consistency and dedication. Yeah, I'm going to force myself to explore it deeply. And I'm going to do two things. First of all, I'm going to focus on the meaning. What does this expression mean? So here we have the sentence. One of the biggest things I want to do differently this year is to deliberately carve out me time. So in the chat, what do you think carve out means? You know, you think of a synonym or another word that has the same meaning, another phrase. I deliberately want to carve out something. Now, if I looked this up in my dictionary, it would tell me, oh, it means to dig into wood and to carve out, or to take a rock and carve out a sculpture out of that rock. But that's not what it means in this situation. You're right, we're working on sparing time, but it doesn't mean spare time always. For example, we'll see in some other examples, it's not so much, in this case, you're right. I'm going to work on sparing time, but so carve out could mean work on. I think you're right, Isabel. Carve out could mean establish, right? I'm going to create or establish some sort of item or practice for myself. Yeah. The next thing we need to do is to say, okay, well, how do we use this word? How do we use this word? How do we use this expression? And I really like this because we're given some good clues. What we can do here is we can look to the left of the expression and we can look to the right of the expression. And what we can notice is that we have an adverb, deliberately, intentionally, carve out, and then something, noun phrase, and then for myself. So what we're doing here is we're taking the text and we're finding the keywords that we want to learn, that we think will be useful in our lives. And then we have to think, okay, well, what do they mean? And then in what situation can I use them? And typically, we learn how to use a word by looking at what comes before it and what comes after it. So let's look at some more examples of carve out. So we're going to do this activity. If you have a piece of paper, you can do this. Our goal is to find two other words that come before carve out and two other words that come after carve out. And it's difficult for you to find this maybe in a dictionary, depending on which dictionary you use, because dictionaries often don't have lists of sentences. They might have one, they might have two, or maybe the sentences aren't connected to real life. They're almost like a chosen from nowhere, right? You're like, why did they choose that sentence for carve out? Why did they? I'm not like, who's interested in that subject? So a good resource that we like to use in the School of Learning is SKEL. And if you are already a member, you know about this because we have several lessons that work with this resource. And SKEL is basically a collection of English and how it's used in different documents and online. And we really like it because it gives us lists of sentences. So if you remember, you're already probably doing this. We do listening activities with SKEL, and we also do reading activities with SKEL to help us build this habit of noticing. So let's see. So here we can see artists carve out careers. Any other ones that you notice? Again, we have to be careful. We don't want examples with the different meaning. Because carve out here is that physical, right? That's the physical one, carving out of wood. Are there any other examples? Let me know in the chat. Are there any other examples of carve out that is similar to the same meaning that we're practicing today? So this one, number 5, probably not, right? Number 3, probably not. Number 4, number 7, Anna says number 7. Oh, great one. Yeah, number 7 is excellent. So in this case, many companies can carve out, and then again, we have this long noun phrase. So we'll help you along the way, because maybe you don't know what a noun phrase is. That's why these live lessons are here. They're here to help you with those technical expressions. Any other ones? I really like this participation. Question about number 9. Oh my gosh, yes. Number 9 is a great example. Good job. Cole here would be a person's name, right? And we have a second career. Excellent. Let's see if we can get 3. We have 1 in number 7, 1 in number 9. Can we get a third one? Let's have a look at number 13 here. Yeah, self-employed. Many people, this is actually distinct niches for themselves. And then look, we're also getting this other word, right? A niche or niche. I know some people pronounce it niche. So this would be a sector or section of a unique market, right? But I really like number 13 because now I think I can use this in my real life, right? I think I could say something like COVID-19 made many people unemployed. And many of these people are starting their own companies. And many of them are carving out new niches, right? Or a unique, distinct niche. I really like that. Just have a look in the chat here. That is a co-location, exactly. So when we do these activities in the School of Learning, we actually have a co-location activity where we ask you to go through. So what are some co-locations? Co-locations are word partnerships. I'm just going to type here. So for example, these are parts of speech that go together, right? So you might, let's look at these, carve out a service. You might carve out a niche. We might carve out a career. Exactly. So if we go to our activity, and there are activities like this in our School of Learning, which is, again, helping us build habits, now we can remember those co-locations, right? We can remember those word partnerships and begin to think, okay, how can I use this in my life? So I can just, practice this on my own. I deliberately carved out more time for my health. I deliberately carved out more time to improve my English. Artists carve out a new career. Maybe I'm going to stop teaching in the classroom and I'll carve out a new career as a student or as a learning coach. And again, we have this example from Skell. Companies can carve out a niche. So really good job. And I think a lot of these answers are evidence that you're aware. We just can't be exposed to English. We actually have to notice it, and then we have to force ourselves to use it. So let's force ourselves to use it. So I'm going to show you a situation. I want you to tell me, I want you to respond or give advice using carve out. And you can use past tense, you can use future tense, but we just want to focus on carve out. So first one says, my friend feels down because of her stressful work life. So you can unmute yourself. If you want to type it in the chat, you can. So how could we use carve out to give this person advice or to even just describe her situation? Okay, so someone just sent me a message here. That's great. I like that. I like that a lot, right? She wants to carve out a new career, they said. She wants to carve out I'm just going to type it here. So we have a career. Yeah, and that's one option. That, again, English is about options. So one option is, yeah, quit your job, carve out a new career. Excellent. What else? Yeah, she needs to carve out a week where her mornings are free. There you go. Carve out a week. Excellent. I'm going to clear those. Let's look at a new situation. Carve out time to relax. Listen, these are great answers. These are really good answers. So now we have a second example. We have Marcos. Marcos feels that his English isn't improving. Some of us said that at the beginning of our class today, didn't we? So let's give ourselves some advice. What can we do? What can Marcus do? But we have to use carve out. Okay, I see some answers. Yeah, carved out some opportunities to meet someone. Exactly. Yeah, I think Isabel, that's great. Yeah, exactly. Carve out some opportunities. Carve out time. Maybe, yeah, maybe he just needs to carve out a study plan, right? Carve out some strategies in addition to joining the SDLP. But yeah, these are really good. So I'm just seeing some. He needs to carve out a different path. Beautiful. Yeah, you need to carve out something that you really do using your carve. Exactly. We want to use that target language. Thank you. And finally, so again, we're trying to use this based on SKEL, because SKEL is telling us how it's most commonly used. We don't want to choose random uses. Like, for example, I might learn the word eat, but I'm not going to say eat medicine. If we eat medicine, we might die, right? That's pretty bad. But I would want to know take medicine, right? Because that co-location, that partnership is going to be familiar to the person who's listening to me or the person who's reading. So we want to stick to what SKEL is teaching us, because SKEL is telling us which are most common. Carve out different learning strategies for number 2. Yeah, what about this this number 3 here? But maybe for number 3 we could say his company carved out a niche in China. Perfect. That's exactly what we're looking for with that third one. So the final stage then is well, let's get some more examples. And again, some of you mentioned at the beginning that you really want to improve your speaking. And as you know, speaking pronunciation is quite important. So one thing we can do is we can actually listen to other people using carve out. And in the SDLP, we have some activities that are using this great resource, which is called Youglish. And carve out is here for us. So let's listen to how carve out is pronounced in natural speech.
Journaling, do some meditating, do some thinking, carve out some space so that you can have some peace and quiet. And
carve out, carve out. Let's listen again to a different one.
That's what I'm going to carve out for my pitches. But like
carve out for my pitch. So it's almost like carve out. They're connecting, right? It's becoming one word. We're going to carve out our pitches. Let's listen to one more.
It also saw Serbs living in Croatia try to carve out their own ethnically pure mini.
Okay, well, that's one about politics.
And so they decided to carve out politics.
That guy's speaking a little slowly. Let's go.
In the impact measurement field, trying to carve out their own.
Carve out, right? So that's a linking sound. So we have some activities in the SDLP that are connected to how to use this resource. And again, this is one more tool we can use to develop better habits. But I think it really comes down to us forcing ourselves to use what we've learned, right? So what can we do now? Well, based on today's lesson, it's now up to us to go back into that reading and to find other words and to practice these habits. So my challenge for you is look at the expression run myself and see if you can find some other examples of run myself and figure out how it's used, figure out what it means, figure out how it's used, and figure out how it's pronounced. And we can already see here that we can run ourselves ragged. But I can guarantee you'd be surprised that this pattern, run myself, adjective, doing something, is very common. But you don't need to choose that one. You can choose a variety of them because you wrote down all of the text I read out to you. So choose the ones that matter most to your life. Go through the techniques that we practiced today and really try to force yourself to make it part of your active vocabulary and your own kind of lifestyle in English. And really that's what the SDLP is. That's what Learn Your English is. We try to be a lifestyle. We have our podcast where we can recommend different learning strategies and we look at the research of learning. But we also try to provide you with tools of the game that you need to be a leader, or in this case, more confident in your English. So the takeaway from this lesson today is there's lots of English out there in the world. It's up to us to notice. And there are some good habits that we can apply to help us do that, to notice, but also to use it in our everyday life. And I think that's what Learn Your English is. We're going to help you apply what you learn, but it's a two-way street. You have to decide what English you want to focus on. And we have some great suggestions in this SDLP with some academic English, some general English. We'll be adding some more test English. But again, it's up to us to apply, and we can provide that avenue with our live lessons and with our forums and our different checkpoints. So I'm so happy that all of you came. I have to say, I'm grateful for your participation as always. And really, I hope you introduced yourself to someone else in the chat today, because we're a community. We have a community of teachers in our teacher membership, and we also have a community of students here in our SDLP. We don't want you to feel alone. We're not another platform to learn English, a cold platform. We are a community. And we really like this informal, friendly approach to learning, because when our brain and our mind and our emotions are relaxed, that's when we learn best. So hopefully you had a great time today. If you have any questions, just feel free to ask. And thank you very much.
And if you think the SDLP is for you, you can carve out a new lifestyle for only $5 a month. So we hope you join us there. Check us out at learnyourenglish.net for more information.